of Hire Women podcast here on Respect My Work. I'm your host, Shelbie Vasquez. This is our second episode of Hire Women's third season. We have a very special guest today, Hope Marian. She is an experienced lawyer, consultant, and cannabis consumer based in Florida. She travels regularly between Florida and Massachusetts for her clients. I've been familiar with her for a long time. She's done amazing work in advocacy, and I'm just so excited to start this interview. But before we do get started, I want to share a word from our sponsor on this episode. This episode is powered by RMR Legacy Smalls, Respect My Region's cannabis flower line, available in Washington State and California. The current strains are Dedication OG, Super Mimosa, Rainbow Truffle, London Pound Cake, and RS11. Hope, welcome. How are you? We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
So I want to start at the beginning of your career. When you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I actually wanted to be a fashion designer.
Okay. But what inspired you?
I think just my love for fashion and art. And then when I was around 8 years old, my mother started a vintage jewelry business. Oh. And I would help her with that. And that kind of also started my love for business. But originally it was fashion design.
I love that. So what inspired you down the line to get into cannabis?
I was working in the liquor industry as I was finishing on the marketing side of things. So I would go into retail establishments and train other promotional reps to do in-person events and other kinds of sampling. And I remember training someone and standing at a table in a liquor store in Massachusetts, kind of having one of those days where I'm like, well, graduating with my business degree, this isn't really fulfilling my deeper need in life. You know, what am I doing? But just in that day-to-day flow. And a gentleman got out of line and came over to our table, and he was holding a lottery ticket. And he took a sample off the table, took it, put it down, and says, that was the first time I had a drink in 30 years. And I remember how much that impacted me. And I drove home so sad for him and thinking, I must have the right intentions, but this isn't something that's fulfilling other people and helping other people. And I'm like, what do I do? And what do I use that helps me? And, that was cannabis before even a medical program. And that had really inspired me to start looking into other options in Massachusetts as the medical program was starting to roll out. A very pivotal moment in my career.
What's your personal relationship with cannabis? What was your first experience consuming?
Oh, my first experience consuming was actually at my first job. And I remember being nervous trying it because I didn't know what to expect. So that didn't really feel like a true experience in trying it due to setting. But I remember a couple of weeks later, my friend helped me properly try cannabis for the first time. And I've always had migraines. So I remember feeling really nauseous that day and having some residual head pain. And when I tried cannabis that day, that nausea just disappeared and I had felt kind of a heaviness lift. And that really started to open up my eyes on what I had heard about cannabis, but what I was learning in that moment too.
That's amazing. So what was your first day working in cannabis like? And how did that come about?
So I became a patient in Massachusetts shortly after that experience I told you about. And we had a medical program through the Department of Health, but we didn't actually have retail locations. We had a caregiver program, very much unregulated. It was grandmothers trying to go meet in a supermarket parking lot for cannabis, and it was very gray area. And once we started having retail rollout, I remember mentioning to a friend, hey, we have 2 retail locations. And I left the liquor industry at that point. I was working at a college writing grants. Said, my job is being removed by the state just left liquor industry. I don't know what to do. And she goes, oh, I know someone who's actually trying to open a retail location near you in the middle of nowhere, Massachusetts. So that was a big deal in 2014. And I just emailed and went on LinkedIn and reached out a few different ways, and she made the connection for me. And we found ways for me to transition my skills from marketing and the liquor industry into the other side of that.
Cool.
Yes.
So how has it been different, the changes between then and to now?
I apologize about that.
No problem. We'll chill for a second. You're back.
My cat just came in and knocked the water over. Not too bad though. We're good. Sorry about that. Can you repeat the question?
You're good. You're good.
Thank you.
Just what has been the evolution between the industry when you started to now?
Yes, absolutely. So, we had a few retail locations at that moment, and now we have over 350. Not only do we have that medical program with 20 plus thousand patients, but we have adult use. And that's really opened up the ability for different types of consumers in Massachusetts to have access.
Is it similar to California?
It is similar. We have a co-located model, which is vertically integrated. And then we do have independent licenses. So someone could open up a cultivation or a manufacturing or a retail. It doesn't have to be completely vertically integrated. California doesn't have a medical program that's vastly available to different ailments. It's very specific now from when I was living in California. Mm-hmm. So luckily we do have a medical program with over 15 different conditions that qualify you, and you're able to make purchases that are tax-free. Okay. So that would be a big difference between California and Massachusetts currently. But 2018-19 California definitely gives me vibes of Massachusetts today.
Okay, love it. Switching gears just a little bit, I know that you have founded some organizations. Do you mind talking about any of them?
Sure. So I started Migraine Hope. It's a small nonprofit that works with migraine disease patients to find alternative and natural treatment approaches, whether that's cannabis or psilocybin. I have found both to be very beneficial to myself, so I find it really important to pass that information and education along.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Are there
Sorry, what was that?
Are there any other organizations that you have created?
Yes, I'm currently with Elevated Access Center. I'm formerly the corporate director. My partner for that and I have gone through the licensure process in Massachusetts. We currently hold 2 provisional licenses, one for cultivation and one for manufacturing. So that's been a very lengthy but experience that I'm happy to have gone through.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations. That's huge. So what advice do you have for other women looking to do that same thing?
Don't give up and connect with like-minded people in the space who genuinely support you and have the same values and morals that you do.
Amazing. So what has your favorite moment been in the cannabis industry overall?
Oh gosh.
Yeah, just pick one. I know there's so many good things. So anything that sticks out to you?
This one's a double-edged sword for me, but I remember feeling really good when adult use passed in Massachusetts. And the program didn't necessarily roll out as anticipated or expected, but the feeling of knowing that cannabis is now being freed to more people and more available made me feel really good about that.
Awesome. So what is your favorite cannabis event? I see you going everywhere. You've traveled everywhere. You've been to very many events that I want to go to. So what has been your favorite?
As much as I love the business conventions where all the good things happen, you know, going to New England and going to a nice sesh with the community with the good vibes is really my favorite. I love supporting those small craft cultivators and small brands in New England.
New England. Awesome.
Absolutely, yeah. I can't forget Maine and all the great brands up there.
Cool. That brings me to the next question. Who are some brands and products that everyone should know about when it comes to cannabis?
I think it really comes down to more or less doing, research on who you're purchasing from and, where those brands have come from. So supporting social equity applicants, minorities, and the craft co-ops are really important.
Definitely. Are there any of your favorite strains that stand out to you currently?
People might make fun of me for this one, but I've always been a mimosa tangy girl.
Okay.
It's just something about that terpene profile that is so synergistic for me. I'm relaxed, I'm mellow, I feel good.
Cool. Get yourself some of that super mimosa from
Yes,
Armor.
I know. You just my face when you listed that. I was like, oh, I gotta try that. It sounds so good.
Nice.
Love those terps.
So is that one that you remember smoking back in the day that still exists, or is there any other strains that were your OG favorites that are still here?
In Massachusetts, there's a lot of new crosses that are always coming out. It's definitely hard to find some of those OG strains. But when I went out to Hawaii for the cannabis convention there was some Maui Wowie that one of the old cultivators brought out, and it just brought back lots of lots of memories and
Nice. That's so cool.
the OG Kush.
Hmm. So factors that would help be a cannabis company be successful. You mentioned social equity, being craft. Are there any other factors that you think would help a company be successful?
Doing due diligence is very important, especially before you make strategic partnerships in business. And of course, aligning your business before you start. If it doesn't make sense on paper, the chances of it being successful are minimal. So, really looking at the market trends and planning into the future, not just looking in that moment when you're making your business plan and decisions.
Thank you. As a cannabis professional, what do you want to be known for?
The integrity of my work.
That's beautiful. What is a typical work day for you?
A typical workday for me is starting in the morning. I'll start with emails, and I have an hour and a half chunk after that of meetings and calls. I don't believe in long stretches of work, so I'll work 1 to 2 hours, and then I'll take a 30 to 45-minute break in between. So that might involve having some tea, taking a stretch break, really letting my mind relax in between heavy work sessions. Now, I do travel quite a bit, so in a way, it feels like I'm on go.
Mhm.
you know, that solid, 7 to 10 days of the month. And then I kind of go back into this a little bit more relaxed work from home flow. But for me, it's really important just to involve self-care into entrepreneurship in my day-to-day life.
What are your favorite forms of self-care?
Oh, I love getting facial massage. So Russian facial massage is a great way for me to rejuvenate, whether it's going to like Turkish baths, getting massage, even just doing a little ice rolling on my face during the day and some stretching, taking a nice bath. I think, especially in this industry, we've gotten into this go, go, go fast mentality. And when we slow down, the longevity increases. So, have to pace ourselves.
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite topics, taking infused baths and
Yes.
massages and facials. Definitely so
Yeah.
needed.
Yeah, there's no right time. You have to make the time.
Right. Love that. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to get to a fun part. Think of this as like a hot take series. We're going to start with some basics and then dive in deeper. What moment or experience was absolutely instrumental in getting you into cannabis?
Oh, definitely the experience that I told you at the liquor store, but also sitting down with my neurologist and telling him how much the plant helped me, and hearing about people that were losing health insurance benefits and other insane things. Back in the day working in cannabis, and I remember him telling me, any loss that you have from going with what's right in your heart will be worth it. And getting the support from my parents as well helped me make the jump.
Do your parents consume?
They do not.
They don't. Neither do. Yeah, my mom will use CBD. I don't think my dad uses it yet, but I'm envious of people who consume with their parents.
My father used plenty in the 60s.
Okay.
And so I think the way that cannabis is for him today, it is much more potent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, but the effects are different. For some people in that generation, they can shy away from reusing it later in life. So he supports it, but it's not what he remembers.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
I hear from many people around that age.
Uh-huh. Boomer. We're gonna switch over. What kind of music do you vibe out to?
Oh, that really depends on my mood and if I'm trying to be productive or mellow out. I like to say I listen to everything but country.
Oh, really?
Except for a little bit of Willie Nelson occasionally, but
Right.
I'm not I'm not a country person.
Okay. All
Like
right.
supporting small artists as well.
Do you have any top three artists that are your favorite go-tos?
Oh, that one's a little rough. So many good ones to choose, but I'm gonna give a shout out to Lizzie Jeff. She's a small musician based out of LA who's up and coming, and she has a great message that she portrays through her music.
Yeah, we love Lizzie.
Yes,
That's
so you're
awesome.
familiar.
Yes, of course. What are absolutely necessary items that you need for a smoke sesh?
Either good quality, clean glass or a nice, clean, unbleached hemp paper.
Okay.
Very
Do you
important to
do
me that the method of consumption is as clean as possible.
clean? Do you
Yeah.
do pipe or bong?
I do bong, the
Me too.
water filtration. Yes. I used to, enjoy a pipe, but it feels a little harsh in the last couple of years, and I'm enjoying that water filtration with the bong. I
Mm-hmm.
don't do any kind of blunts or tobacco wraps now, but when I was 15, 16, I really enjoyed it. So I'll leave it
Yeah,
there.
for sure.
Yes.
Are there any munchies or drinks that you can't live without when you're high?
I used to go for the classic, sweet snacks, but I really enjoy now things like apples and peanut butter or, making some like Japanese sweet potato. I get very creative now with my munchies.
Love it. Do you
Yes.
have any favorite restaurants where you are or in your travels that you can recommend to people?
I like going to the family owned, unique places. I try to avoid eating at chain restaurants. I was actually recently over in Tampa for a work meeting, and I went to a place called Burns Steakhouse where all the staff actually works on the farm, and then they apply and go through further training to work in the restaurant. So it's all farm to fork, and the employees are so invested and genuinely want to be there. It makes the experience much more enjoyable when the staff is like, this is my favorite meal every day,
Mhm.
and they actually have a dessert room as well. So you get to go upstairs into a dessert room, and there's a 25-page book of desserts. They make macadamia ice cream there, and it's a delightful experience. So if you
Yeah,
ever get
thank
to
you.
the Gulf Coast of Florida, I recommend that.
Thank you so much for telling me about that. I just like saw you light up as you were describing
So
it.
good.
Yeah, just
I'm
hearing
like, when am I going back to Tampa?
you. All right. Tell us a moment when you felt like a higher woman.
I love going to events where other women in the space connect and we can feel free and truly feel that connection. In the day to day flow, even working with a team of women, we can feel isolated, right? And events like Blunt Brunch are just so inspiring for me. I remember going to Blunt Brunch last year and going in feeling a little bit discouraged about the market, the place we're at, being in this space for 8 years and going in and seeing 200 plus women dancing and smiles and just knowing that we can get through this together just gave me more inspiration to continue to push through.
I
So I
love
love
it.
those events. Those are the
Me
best.
too. We get
Yeah.
all dolled up and done up all cute because we're supposed to see
Yes.
our girls. And everybody's smoking on their favorite stuff. You can bring your favorite things to smoke from, and everybody's just mingling and networking. And they have the best refreshments and snacks, and it's always at a cool venue. I love the blunt brunch events. So.
Yes, yes, I've made so many amazing connections there that have led to doing business deals that I might not have made going into a traditional business setting like MJ BizCon, which is great in its own way, but feeling that empowerment of other women is just irreplaceable.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, what would be your definition of a higher woman?
The kind of woman that goes into those events, right?
Right.
And looks for that unity and that connection.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
thank
want
you.
to go back to your name, Hope. So, what gives you hope?
It's to seeing, people like yourself in the space that are doing good and connecting with other women to continue to create that force that we have. It's changed a lot in the industry for us women. And as we continue to stick together, it provides us opportunities to stay in it.
And what are some hopes that you have just for the industry or for any laws or any things that you want to see?
My hopes are that we can continue to protect medical programs. We can continue to create social equity programs, but not just create them, also enforce them so that they can be successful. I see some states roll out programs that look good, but they're not necessarily implemented the best they can be.
Hmm.
So we've come a long way, but we do have a lot of work to do.
Definitely. What do people, anything that I've missed maybe that you'd like people to know or anything that you have coming up?
I've done consulting for several years now, and I am really passionate about working with the smaller brands and operators. And it's interesting because I used to solely focus on compliance, operations, and business strategy. Strategy in the sense of tiered strategy plans for growth. And it's sad because in some cases now we're not creating those strategies for growth. We're creating strategies to stay alive and to create plans on how they're going to dissolve. And those things make me sad because it's part of the natural progression in any business. But seeing people put their heart into it that are being beat out by larger multi-state operators and things like that. So I think as long as we continue to support the smaller craft operators and we know who we're purchasing from, we make those good decisions, we'll continue to make progress.
We vote with our dollars, they
Yeah.
say.
Yes.
Do you plan to stay in Massachusetts or Florida, or is there any state that you want to eventually live in or that are your favorite?
I could see myself later in life leaving the United States, but as far as right now, with my family, my parents being older, and my business roots in Massachusetts, I'm going to be staying between there and Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I do have my, compliance and operations part of the business.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to be launching an employee handbook template and different operating document templates that could be used in newer markets, not just markets that are established like Massachusetts and Florida. So that's an exciting thing that I have coming up
Yeah,
as well.
that's huge. Amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
I love a good employee handbook. So
Oh,
if you don't
yeah.
have one, message me.
Cool. So where outside of America are you thinking?
I'm not quite sure yet. Not
Okay.
quite sure. Still exploring and feeling that one out. But
Yeah.
cannabis has brought me all over. I
Mhm.
was able to move to California for opportunities. I've done work in Hawaii and Iceland. So I think as
Wow.
long as I just keep going with the flow and seeing where life takes me, I'll have those answers.
What did you do in Iceland?
They were looking to help um, form some potential future regulations around either a medical or adult use program, but really looking for guidance on how they would be potentially importing product or using geothermal energy to cultivate. There is some social aspects there that I will leave at that. And that culture is very much alive there, even if you don't see it on the front pages of Icelandic news.
Yeah.
So helping them figure some things out there on that side of
I
it.
know
But
Bjork is from Iceland. She's a trip.
yes, yes.
So
And I
that's
have to
really
say,
cool.
it was some of the best cannabis I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Is it like cold over there? I wonder if it's the temperature. That's cool.
Even though it's called Iceland, you would be surprised that it's very green in the
Green.
summer,
I
and
heard that.
it goes into the 70s.
I've heard, and then Greenland is actually pretty icy. That's what I've
Yes,
heard.
yes.
Okay,
That
cool.
geothermal energy provides a lot of opportunity there. So it will be interesting to see if they take on cannabis cultivation methods that are similar to how they grow their produce indoors with that energy.
Wow. So I've also seen that you were in Double Blind Magazine. How did that come about?
Rochelle Gordon is a wonderful advocate for all things psychedelic and also an amazing woman in the space. So she's been there for my journey, talking about using psilocybin for migraine. And she's a great advocate as well for all things related. So when she saw the opportunity, she reached out to me, and I was very grateful to be able to share a little bit about microdosing and whether
Microdosing.
you're using it for migraine or not, going over some guidance there, but also talking about my story and how psilocybin can help those with neurological conditions like migraine disease.
Do you follow a certain plan for microdosing? I know that there's 2 days on, 1 day off. Do you do that, or do you just microdose, or do you have a guide for that for yourself?
I've changed it depending on where I feel like I'm at in life. I think what's worked for me at one point wouldn't necessarily work for me currently because of growth and other factors in my life. So I don't consistently microdose currently. I wait until I feel like I have something to work through, or I'm looking for an answer, or just when I feel like things are becoming not flowing, right? And I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, I think it's time to check in. And I'll go microdosing point one for the first 2 days, point two for the second day, and then I'll take 3 or 4 days off and repeat that cycle again. So could be a 4 day dosing week, could be a 3 day, depending. I'll do that for 2 weeks.
Sounds good. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, we hear a lot about people using cannabis for migraines, but it's amazing to hear other plant medicines can help us and more people being enlightened by voices such as yourself. So thank you so much for doing things like that. That's
Thank you. I have a great relationship with my neurologist, and it just blew my mind when I found out that some people have attacks through a lack of serotonin or some other imbalances, right? And psilocybin naturally binds to our serotonin receptors, and so that homeostasis that people are seeking through medications like triptans and other SSRI approaches, beta blockers, can really be supplemented in a more natural approach. And there is no right or wrong option for someone, but triptans never worked for me. And so my neurologist has been able to do some research through Harvard and is very involved in that side of things as well. So it's nice seeing a mainstream doctor in Boston talk about using LSD and psilocybin for neurological conditions.
What are the laws like for it there? Psilocybin.
There's certain communities that have decriminalized either psilocybin or all drugs. So it really depends on the specific community that you are in. And I would like to also add that if you are microdosing psilocybin, maybe consider adding in other mushroom blends to help balance out the psilocybin. I found that also to be very beneficial.
Lion's mane, cordyceps. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Have you been to any psychedelic events as well? Like the big cannabis events?
Yes, I've been to Cannadelic, I think 2 or 3 times now. That's over in Miami. And that's a great merger of cannabis and psychedelics. Paul Stamets spoke at the last one, and it was a very educational and inspiring talk.
I love his conversations. I love watching his podcast too. I've learned a lot from him.
Yes.
Have you met him?
Yes, I was able to meet him at the show. Yes, cool. He's very unique. He's very good vibe. He said something about my name and walked away. I was like, okay.
Cool. I've met Hamilton Morris. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I am.
Yeah,
jealous.
He was also a very unique person.
Yeah, that merger is interesting. There's other shows that just focus on psychedelics as well, but I did find having that blend of cannabis and psychedelics to just show where the industries are headed.
So I know you wanted to be a fashion designer when you grew up, as you were saying. Are you creative in other ways now?
I struggle with my creativity sometimes. I told you that I love writing employee handbooks and SOPs. So I don't always know how to connect with my creative side, but I've been able to start to do that through food a little bit more lately, getting creative with flavor blends and even pairing cannabis and food, trying to kind of relax and go maybe to a paint and smoke kind of event, and just tapping into the other side, since sometimes we get so stressed in life day to day, we forget how to tap into that, right?
What has been your favorite cannabis and food pairing?
Interpret Tasting in Massachusetts does a great job. Bobby Nuggs and Bailey throw that event, and they had paired a really nice strain that was high in myrcene with chicken and waffles. It was so good, and I had the undertones of the orange terpy taste, but pairing with little mandarin oranges on the chicken and waffles, just tied it together.
Awesome.
They also have juice that you can sip while you pair the food and cannabis. So it really is like this trifecta experience that you don't normally have, right? So
was it
I love
juice?
I believe Juice Man Piff is the juice guy in Massachusetts in the industry, infused and non-infused, and it was, I believe, an orange pineapple mango blend. And so you just did a little sip of the juice, took a hit, then they took a bite of the food, and it was really good.
Wow, Bobby Nuggs and Juice Man Piff.
Hell yeah. Yep. Those events are still happening on almost a monthly basis. So if you're in Boston, check it out.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love the painting behind you, by the way.
Thank you. Brandelism. He's an artist out of Boston.
Brandelism.
The BRANDALIZM, I believe.
Thank y'all.
So
cool. Do you have any other cannabis artists that you want to shout out that we should know about? Check out?
Not off the top of my head, but I'm sure I'll do some. Thank you.
I think that's
And I do want to add, I'm honored that you said I'm a lawyer. I'm an aspiring lawyer.
Oh, you are?
I'm on the road, but it's a long road ahead. So maybe one day we'll come back and do another episode and I can tell you that I finished law school and I'm officially a cannabis lawyer.
Okay, noted. So you're going through that process now?
I am, yes, adding to my experience and expertise as I pivot through the industry.
I've heard that it's kind of common for people to not pass the bar the first time. But
I have heard that as well.
I would probably be nervous about it. But hey, you could do it, Hope. I'm
Thank
really
you.
grateful and so
Thank
excited
you.
to come back and talk about that. What would you want? Like, what would be your main thing that you want to serve for that? Would it be just like regulations or helping people get out of jail?
In my heart, I'm always working to help free cannabis prisoners. I actually used to have a pen pal program I ran, so that has a big place in my heart. So I'll definitely be doing continued advocacy for that when I do finish. But it also depends on where the industry and market are. At this point, I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate. Every quarter, we see different changes depending on what region you're in. But in my heart, I love intellectual property. I've gone through with myself having IP used behind my back by different cannabis brands and companies, and having to defend my own intellectual property for years really made me understand how heartbreaking and challenging it can be for a business owner or creator who isn't aware of how easy it can be to go through that really sad, upsetting process. I love my IP lawyer. She's helped me learn a lot where I've filed my own copyrights and trademarks, and it really just sparked some passion as well. Definitely general business consulting with my degree and taking on contracts. I currently write my own contracts, but I don't feel like I have um, the specific background to legally write contracts for other people at this point. But I love technical writing, so just building on that at this point.
Would you say that you're an organized person?
In some ways, yes, and in some ways, no.
Okay.
I think it's being too organized is not a good thing.
Okay.
But,
Yeah.
I do think organization is also very important for flow.
Wow. But you're creating
Not too much.
standards and procedures. So that's just so admirable. I
Yes.
look up to you in
Yes.
terms of that.
Yeah, I mean, when we have that compliance in place, it mitigates any further harm, accidents, and negative business dealings that can result from it. So, why not protect your employees and your business?
Being proactive versus reactive.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Oh my gosh. You're amazing. This has been amazing speaking with you.
Likewise.
Man, like we can go so many. We have to have you back, I think.
I would love that. But an honor chatting with you.
Thank you so much, Hope. Is there anything else that you would like to leave us with?
I'm just grateful for the opportunity to share my story and to be on this platform. So thank you.
Okay.
Looking forward to seeing the other women as well that you interview.
Are there any women that you want to shout out that you think that would be good for our podcast?
I can certainly send you a list.
Okay, for sure.
I noticed that you had Holly on, and I was just spending some time with Holly Alberti at the Freedom Rally this past weekend, and we were discussing how nice it is to have a podcast and a platform to highlight women in the space. So I know whoever you have is going to be amazing. But,
what else happened at the Freedom Rally?
Sorry, I missed your question. What was that?
What can you talk about the Freedom Rally? Where was that? What happened?
Oh, absolutely. It's on the Boston Common in Boston, Massachusetts, and it's been happening for over 30 years. It originally started as an opportunity for folks to show civil disobedience by peacefully toking. And what started as 5 people smoking has turned into an event where 10,000+ people show up to peacefully smoke, listen to panels, and check out different kinds of vendors and brands that are in New England.
Okay, New England sounds like that's where it's at, and that's why you said you love that.
It is. It's interesting because I first went to that event when I was 15, and I remember they had police walking around and police on horses patrolling, just taking cannabis away from people, putting it in their pocket, walking away, and just thinking, wow, this is crazy. But oh my gosh, I'm so grateful no one's getting arrested. And then I fast forward 15 years at the same event, seeing, 10,000+ people all lighting up at 420, while someone's playing in the background and someone else is talking about using cannabis for PTSD. And it's just an amazing moment to see everyone come together, outside the industry, just the consumers, the patients, the people that are fed up with the prohibition that we've been dealing with. And so it's a great event to see the community come together in that sense.
Thank you. I'm gonna look up more about New England and see how I can make my way there for those events and hang out with you.
Absolutely. We have NECAN in March, which Joey and Mitch from Respect My Region came out to and did some awesome interviews as well. So we'll be having that again in March, and all these other smaller fun networking events in between.
I do have another question actually that came to mind. Do you have a favorite dispensary?
I love going to the caregivers in Maine. As a medical patient in Massachusetts, there's considerably less medical retail stores for me to go to than adult use.
Mm-hmm.
So I do make my way up to Maine often.
Mm-hmm.
Uncle Pete's Relief is a medical caregiver in Sanford. His family owned small batch. The precision and love that goes into the cultivation and processing of these products is amazing. And I do feel the difference when I consume. I can tell when someone's cared about their product or not. So I'd say look up those craft cultivators and see what retail locations they're at that you can check out. See if there's women-owned retail operations as well that you can support.
Have you partnered with anyone with your Pen Pal program?
In the past, there's been collaboration with Last Prisoner Project. I helped them get their project up and going, but as of right now, we are operating our Pen Pal program separately.
That's awesome. I love Last Prisoner Project, and I have seen at dispensaries in California, there will be a little section where they have letters and envelopes and everything that you need to write a letter and send it in. And I just think that should be in almost every dispensary, every event. I think that's amazing.
Absolutely. I think it's also really important that we support those that are still dealing with the aftermath of nonviolent cannabis sentences. There's people doing life sentences and we're toking at home peacefully. So I think of that often. And it takes 20 minutes to write a letter, put a stamp on it, and mail it. Yes. And they'll write back. And they're so excited to receive a glimpse of the outside world and to know that they're not forgotten about. There's 3 different people I've actually written to that are now freed. And one I've been able to meet in person. So it's really nice. Even though their integration back into the outside world is challenging, the opportunity for them to resume life is really inspiring as well.
Yay. Thank you so much for sharing these amazing stories and everything that you've been doing. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you. We look forward to having you back. And thank you for everyone watching. That's our conversation today. Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Hire Women podcast. My name is Shelbie Vasquez. This is Hope Marian. Please make sure to leave us a review in the comments and like, follow, and subscribe to our Instagram and YouTube. And don't forget to ask for Respect My Region at your local dispensaries and delivery services. Thank you guys so much. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Take care.